Chico and the Man will not be presented this evening, and the Rockford Files will be seen 1 hour later than normal, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
If you like comic books, then you definitely like comic art. Visit comicartfans.com to see original comic artworks and custom drawings that people have collected and posted online. Coming soon, Comic Art Fans is hosting an in-person event called the Original Art Expo that will focus on the hobby of collecting original comic art. The Original Art Expo will be held at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Orlando, Florida on January 26th through the 28th, 2024. They will have over 30 exhibitors and 60 comic artists. Spend the weekend in an intimate setting with some of the best creators in the world. Purchase or commission a piece of original comic art. Visit the Comic Art and Illustration Galleries. Attend the Saturday night auction and pizza party and hang out with your fellow comic art enthusiasts. The Original Art Expo is sure to be the world's premier visual storytelling art event, so don't miss out. Go to oa-expo.com to get your tickets today and visit comicartfans.com to see what comic art collecting is all about.
Hi, I'm Alex Ross.
The two pieces are sort of a type. They're both kind of recreations of artwork that existed in the 90s. In fact, this piece here for the Avengers is in most ways a recreation or a tribute to George Perez's poster version from the mid-90s, where he did a shot that featured in it a figure of Captain America that was very similar to what I've done here, positioning of the Vision or positioning of Hawkeye, and I believe a few other elements are very similar to that piece, and it's consciously so. I was building off that inspiration, but I kind of refitted my design to fill out bigger shots of the figures so that I was making a wider composition and getting in a lot of the same characters, but still not quite as many as what George himself did, because George's thing was always to try and get in the maximum amount of content into pieces that he did.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show, and more. John Suntress here. The and more is because this guy's got a hell of a dossier, whether we're talking about TV, film, or comics. It's always good to catch up with a great writer and a very always interesting guest, Rodney Barnes, joining Word Balloon tonight. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for having me.
Rodney, forgive me, but I got to ask, because literally ever since episode 7 of Winning Time, your fantastic HBO Lakers show ended, I had more questions. First of all, excellent job, man. 2 great seasons.
Thank you.
That cast, man, that cast is, the newcomers are going to be names and faces that we're going to be talking about, I think, for years to come. A lot of newcomers really made a massive impact on that show. And you'll forgive me because I don't remember names, and I'm going to count on you to remind us. Right there in the main picture, you got the guy who played Magic, the guy who played Kareem. Yep. Of course, John C. Reilly is Jerry Buss. But yeah, tell me the names that I'm missing right now. Forgive me.
Yeah, Quincy Isaiah and Solomon Hughes were fantastic as Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They're all Delonte D'Souza, all of them. Everybody was.
Yeah, and I forget who played Cookie Johnson, of course.
Tamari Tamakili, and then Devon Nixon also played his dad. So yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, and also, the guy who played Norm Nixon was fantastic.
Everybody was great.
You know my background, or maybe if you don't remember, I spent 20 years in sports radio. Mm-hmm. And then, I started in the 90s, literally at the end of Magic time when the Bulls beat them in the 91 finals and everything. But Rodney, forgive me, was the show cut short? Because 7 episodes seems like an odd number for any season. But,
Yeah, I mean, I think we condensed the first two episodes. They were supposed to be separate, and we just did a longer first episode than usual. But yeah, I mean, we tried to do more, and unfortunately, we came up a little short.
well, I know that Warner's certainly has issues right now from a financial standpoint, and I'm sure they got to make a lot of hard choices. It's a shame because, man, I'm telling you, I love that show. I just think it
Yeah.
was so well written, so well acted. The execution. We talked early on about using that grainy
Yeah.
Japanese camera that gave you
Yeah.
the grainy '70s effect and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good
Really,
stuff.
yeah, man. And also, I mean, the show's called Winning Time, and unfortunately, it ends mid '80s when the Lakers lose, and it's like, oh man. I mean, I'm sure the big hope was to keep it going through. I mean, good lord, you had that Pistons Lakers rivalry, sitting there for a potential third season, and
Sure.
yeah, I mean, was that the like at least thematically, is that where the second season was supposed to end?
I mean, we did end in the second season where we planned to end. I think the third season was still there were discussions as to where we were going to go, but the best laid plans. You know,
No hope for another platform to pick it up the way it happens in streaming sometimes.
not as of this our conversation.
Okay, but keep hope alive, if I
Keep hope
may
alive.
misquote. Okay,
Keep
all
hope
right,
alive.
cool. Hey, again, man, you guys have nothing but victory laps with how great that show turned out. So
Thank
we
you
got
very much.
we got a big crowd, and I hope questions are going to come through. The Wheeze wants you to know, and we can transition and start talking comics. And says Philadelphia is brilliant, huge fan.
Thank you. Thank you. I
And
appreciate it.
yeah, and also, geez, Rodney, what you guys have coming up? I mean, you blew our minds when you got into the Image universe, and all of a sudden, Spawn shows up in Philadelphia, and
Yeah,
we
we
know
got Spawn, we got Savage Dragon, Blackula, Dracula. We got a bunch of folks.
that's so great to hear, man. It's
Yeah.
it's exciting. So for both Spawn and for Savage Dragon, did you talk to Todd? Did you talk
Yeah.
to Larson and obviously tell them what you want to do story wise stuff, kind of get their blessing or whatever?
Yeah, with both. I think Jason spoke mostly to Eric Larson, and both of us, got the sign off from Todd McFarlane. So, yeah, it was an honor to be able to work with those characters.
It's great that you're doing it because I think that was always the initial ambition of
Mhm.
of the Image group to
Yeah.
have crossovers. I just talked to Tim Seeley yesterday, and he was
Mhm.
telling me the same thing about using Youngblood characters and things like that in his Local Man series that's out through Image.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It makes you feel like you're part of a shared universe. And certainly as a publisher, Image has been great. So being able to sort of borrow and play in a different place makes Philadelphia a bigger idea than just seeing the same people doing the same things and having the same conversations. So we just wanted to have an arc that was fun and different and more comic booky in the traditional sense than what we usually do heavier stuff. We talk about a lot of social, political, blah, 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 but we just wanted to have one story arc where it was just fun.
So, without spoiling, will your plans for Blackula and some of the other MGM movie characters that you've optioned that you've discussed before, will they appear in this arc or will they appear in a future arc?
I hope to get Blackula in this arc. We will see.
Excellent. Oh, okay, I'm assuming negotiations are underway as far as that goes and everything.
Always, always.
That's great, man. And truly, it's so great that you are doing this in your creator-owned book because you know how to play with other people. We're going to talk about what you're doing with Marvel and Star Wars and stuff in a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is. I'm thrilled that you're opening Philadelphia up to this kind of story. Why not have fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think in today's world to have 32 issues, I think we're at 32, 33 should be out soon. It's kind of rare. Usually most folks go 10, 20 at the most, and then you go back to a number one or you start with something new. So to be fortunate enough to be on this for like 3 years and continuously going strong, it's an honor.
That's excellent, man. Joining us in the chat, from Gil Thorpe, a great comic strip, Henry Barras, with a little praise from.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. There you go, goat. Even how about that? That's awesome.
Sheep, a sheep maybe. I'll take a sheep over a goat. That's close enough to a goat. But thank you.
Well, honestly, Rodney, prior to Philadelphia, I hadn't heard of your work beyond, and again, then reading and going, oh, that's cool. He worked with Bernie Mac. Oh, that's cool. He worked with Damon Wayans. Worked on the Pelican Brief, for example. It's like, all right, that's a lot of respectful pedigree right there from a writing standpoint. But truly, man, you've really made your mark in comics, and it's really been fun. I appreciate that your voice is here.
Thank you very much. That makes me feel good. It's a difficult day, so I'm ending it in a good way. So thank you.
We haven't talked since the strike. How was that period for you?
I mean, it's difficult for all of the writers and probably the entire industry and all of the ancillary businesses and support folk that were hurt by it. And we probably won't see the collateral damage for some time to come. So it's always difficult, but hopefully the deal is a good one. And I know what it is in writing, but you never know how it actualizes itself until time passes somewhat. But glad it's over. Glad we're all back to work, and hopefully everybody can be made whole.
Okay, I noticed too. Did I put it up? No, I got to get the image. We've talked before about your podcast, Run Fool.
Yes.
Yes. And tell me, because I thought it was going to be more of a like kind of just going back, watching movies, whatever. But am I right? Are you making it more of a scripted fiction?
It is scripted. Yeah, it's scripted. There are some stories that come from folklore that we've sort of embellished upon, but I always get comments from folks like, yeah, I know where that place is. I know where Knock Knock Road is, and I know about Rougarou and the Wendigo and all of those things. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, to be able to use my voice and to tell stories. And it's something I would have liked as a kid, to be able to push a button and hear scary stories. So every Tuesday, there are new ones, and you can check out Spotify or Apple or wherever you get podcasts. There you go. Hear Dead Children's Playground. That's one of the scariest ones yet.
You're like your own Rod Serling, man. This is you and your nightgown, basically.
That's exactly that's what I'm going for. Every once in a while, Kevin Seaman, our sound director, he'll come in and he'll say, "Hey, a little more Orson Wellesy here, a little more Vincent Pricey here," and he'll always, sort of lean me in a direction that goes back to those days that inspired me to do this.
Man, I'll tell you, every Halloween, I always on social media will chime in with you got to hear Orson Welles doing Donovan's Brain, or you got to hear Vincent Price doing something horrific. Yeah. Peter Lorre did so many great shows like that. Well, Rodney, that's the thing, man. We're close enough in age. I think we have the same influences and stuff.
For sure.
And I'm thrilled you're doing it. Would you want to do more? I am so intrigued and pleased with the people that get into audio and do really good audio drama these days. And they've got the advantages of, good soundtrack, good special effects, good music behind it and stuff. So, I mean, is this a realm that you'd like to do more in?
It is. I mean, I think the show has been really successful. I mean, we really came out of the gate really well, and it's opened up some other opportunities. And it all came from really doing the Winning Time podcast. And we won an award for that. And so someone said, hey, you should do more podcasts. And so I pitched it, and Mr. Ballin and At Will Media and Campside Media came on as partners, and a lot of resources and a really well-made product. So, a lot of fun. I'd love to do more.
Are you finding good actors and stuff as far as
it's just me reading. It's just me doing
it. It is okay. Excuse me. All right. So
just me.
That's fantastic, man. That's it. Well, again, I agree. Your Winning Time podcast was outstanding to listen to. I also like the after show that you and Rick Fox did as well on camera. Yeah. So, no, I'm all for it, Rodney, and I love how you have set up. Remind people of your comic imprint, the publishing imprint.
Zombie Love Studios. Yes, Zombie Love Studios.
Outstanding, man. No, and again, the areas you're going into with creator owned, but also licensed stuff. I have to ask about your collaboration with one of the scariest guys from 70s rock, and that's Alice Cooper. How did that
Yeah.
happen?
Nick Barucci. Shout out to Nick Barucci and the good folks at Dynamite. And Nick reached out and said, "What do you know about Alice Cooper?" And I said, "I know a couple of songs from when I was a kid." And he said, "If you can come up with a story, I'd love for you to take a crack at it." And it looks like that's exactly what we did.
Any contact with Alice?
Not from me. Not from me. Probably Nick, but not me.
Understood.
He seems to like it, though. Seems to like it.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you got feedback, man. It doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. Guys
Yeah.
always had a great sense of humor. Man, all right, now here's the thought. Would you cross over the way that you've crossed over comic characters into Philadelphia? Is it possible we might see Screaming Jay Hawkins in
For sure.
another great horror rock
Yeah.
person and everything?
For sure. I mean, I think it's all up to, there's a pacing with the story that we're telling. We're in the midst of a war on the streets of Philadelphia. But if there's always a way for me to stick a character in there, I'm always happy to try.
Excellent. And I'm looking. Let's see. Is it Ed? How do you say Ed? Your artist name?
I was hoping you would have done it, but Ed's fantastic.
Is that Medina?
Yes.
All right, I got it. Yeah, let's go with that. And we're apologies that if we're murdering your name, but clearly Alice. I mean, great likeness, and I kind of like it. Were you a Chaos Comics reader in the '90s?
I collected them, but I didn't read them. There was a period that I went through when I was going to college and stuff that I kept buying comics, but I never read them. I still do that sometimes. Every Wednesday, it's like an addiction. I'll go to the store, I'll get a bunch of stuff, and it'll be stay in the bag for like 2 weeks.
I hear you, man. No, it's true. I mean, well, that's the good problem of so many great comics out there right now.
This is true.
So I hear you. More comments from the chat. Sal Abinati, who's tied with Alex Ross. He loved the Lakers show. Got to know Dr. Bus.
Thank you.
He was a good guy, and he says the Forum was an amazing place. I can only imagine. I only
I
had
agree.
I only had the stadium to go to here in Chicago back then.
Yeah.
Isham Zubi. I'm a fan I'm a fan from a Lakers fan, but Winning Time was really captivating. I was really impressed how the show was able to balance multiple protagonists. Absolutely, especially the coach transitions. 100%. I knew nothing about Jack. Last name escapes me, but
Jack Kent Cook.
Jack Kent Cook. Well, not Jack Kent Cook. The coach who preceded
McKinney.
Jack McKinney. I knew nothing about Jack McKinney.
Yeah, and this bicycle accident.
Show. Yeah. Paul Whitfield, right? The
Paul Westphal.
Westphal. Whitfield, the actor.
Which one are we talking about?
It's not Westphal. Jason Segel's. Shame on us.
I'm blanking.
I thought for sure it was Westphal.
No, it wasn't Westphal. He was a guard for the Phoenix Suns. Paul Westhead.
Paul Westhead. Thank you. All right, excellent. Yeah, but I didn't know much about them either. I mean, certainly Riley.
Yeah.
You couldn't ignore him. And the way you guys played Chick Hearn, and especially being a broadcaster myself, I really appreciated Chick Hearn and the way you guys presented him and stuff. No, a really fascinating story, man. Really, and I know you guys had your critics, but again, it's not a documentary. It's it's a dramatization.
It is. That's what it was.
I get it. I absolutely get it, and love what you guys did with it. Hey, everybody in the chat, more questions, please keep them coming or comments. But we will continue to transition and maybe talk about Luke Cage and what's happening with him in Marvel.
Yeah. Luke is a lot of fun. That's what I decided to do with this mini. It's the beginning of Gang War, which is really a Spider-Man related thing, and the whole city of New York is going to hell. And Luke is the mayor of New York, and there's an anti-vigilante act in place. And so Luke can't be Luke, and he's wearing a costume that is supposedly to hide his identity, but it's kind of clear that he sort of is Luke Cage. But Yeah, Luke is sort of straddling the fence between being a public official and a hero. I would say hero for hire, but to go back to the old days, but a
Sure.
hero. And so he's straddling that fence, and we'll see how long he's able to do it before all hell breaks loose.
Who else is from the Marvel Street universe? Maybe that I'm assuming that might
Yeah, we
show
got
up.
Cloak and Dagger in there. We got Danny Rand, who's no longer the Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, of course, because she's married to Luke, and a few other familiar faces may pop up.
Misty, perhaps, and the Daughters of the Dragon.
Perhaps,
Misty, perhaps.
perhaps.
It's truly it's one of my favorite eras of Marvel, and I'm always happy when people come back to these characters and give them a modern spin and stuff. But yeah, that was just a great time. I mean, yeah, as a reader, yeah. How were you with this stuff coming out?
You mean back the old stuff, the Bronze
Yeah,
Age
yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
Yeah, I bought it as soon as it came out, like everybody else. I collected them and with my friends, and we went back and forth. And I was talking to Pat and Oswald. We were talking about how comics were they were supposed to be a disposable form of entertainment because they were only 12 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, 25 cents. And, but we held on to them like they were priceless. It was a great thing. It was a great time to be a collector of comics, more so than like now it was $3.99. But when they were like 20 cents, 25 cents, oh my God, it was perfect.
Well, and again, that was back when there was limited entertainment for kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we didn't have the computer game options that kids
Didn't have
have.
a cell phone, didn't have a computer in our pocket 24/7.
No, absolutely not, man. But no, and also again, and I know you're a fan of the Grindhouse era
Yeah.
of 70s movies and stuff, and I think it was reflected so well in the comics. And it's funny because it's like I'm all for modern diversity and modern inclusion and stuff, and it's like, hey, don't forget in the 70s, I
Yeah.
think Marvel was doing a hell of a job
They were.
in those areas,
Yeah. Yeah. They certainly, I think, to a lot of folks that say the world is changing so much. I mean, the world was changing certainly back then too.
No question about that, man. And again, I only hope that you fanning the Blackula flame with the license and stuff is going to get people interested and excited, because I honestly, man, I just think that was such a stroke of genius on your part,
Thank
going
you.
back to Blackula, bringing him back, and showing in that great graphic novel that you made how vital he still is and
Thank
can
you.
be in the right hands. Yeah,
I
man, I
appreciate
totally,
it.
and the way Jason drew
Jason Sean Alexander. Yeah, Jason did a great job.
that, and again, man, I'm telling you, I'm loving his depictions of things like Savage Dragon. Is this a Jason cover?
It is a Jason cover.
There you go, man. I mean, that's the most realistic look for Dragon that I think I've ever seen, and I love it. It's
Yeah.
like when Alex Ross, gives you a look for the first time and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, man, if they made paperback stories about these characters,
Yep.
that's what they would do. Well, and
That's really
again,
cool.
man, how about oh shit, I was gonna say, how about would John Shaft show up potentially in Philadelphia at some point?
All of these, it's all up to the licensing and the folks that are willing to play. It's always that stuff. I mean, shout out to the late great Richard Roundtree, but yeah, it's all up to MGM or whoever owns the rights to let us play with them.
Did you read Dave Walker? I think did a great
I
reset.
did. David and I just had dinner the other night, and we were
Hey,
going
that's
through those
awesome.
books. Yeah, we were just talking literally 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's wonderful, man. No, I love Dave's work. I love Sanford Green, another Dave partner,
Yeah.
and what they're doing with Bitterroot and everything. That's outstanding. Outstanding.
Big
All
time.
right, now I got to ask you. All right, we got to shift to Star Wars, and you've been doing this fantastic run on the Mandalorian. Now, this is issue 8, but really, Rodney, they renumber all the time.
They do.
Like have you've done a couple dozen Mando stories at this
Well,
point?
yeah, I did the first season, second season, and hoping for the third season. So yeah.
Isham had another question regarding Winning Time, and we kind of covered this. If Winning Time had continued, were there plans on the breakdown for which years would be covered by the remaining seasons?
In a broad sense, we never got an opportunity to really solidify where we were going to go. There was a lot of different eras we were talking about covering, whether we were going to jump forward. Certainly wanted for Magic and Kareem and company to get their revenge for that loss against the Celtics. But it's a weird thing with television that once you tell that story, it's hard to tell it again. So if you were to go back and make season 3 just about getting revenge on the Celtics, you would have had to find other subplots and other things that you could explore. So there were a lot of conversations about a lot of different things.
Well, again, the great news was the fact that the Lakers found other rivals as the '80s progressed, like certainly the Pistons, and I think those NBA finals were really give and take and great series. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
So, geez, did you have? Were you even in your minds? Were you guys casting for people like
No.
Lampier and Isaiah Thomas or
We
anybody?
weren't that far ahead. No.
Okay.
We weren't
Okay.
that.
Nothing in your head now as a guy, as an armchair caster?
No, I mean, I sort of look forward. I've been working on a Jack Johnson miniseries for HBO and some other things I have in development. So once once it goes in the back in the file, it goes in the file, and you got to look forward. So that's that. If it's ever resurrected and I'm part of that resurrection, then for sure, then.
I get it. Oh, here we go. Yes, I'm so glad, Weez, that you're asking this question. Any more planned spinoffs like Nita Hawes and Nita Hawes Nightmare blog?
For sure. Johnny Gatlin is running in the back of Philadelphia right now, and that's another character. And most of the stuff that's on my Substack will probably go in print in the back, and that's all part of the Philadelphia world as well. And then I've got some new ones planned as well, hopefully to spin off. But running up against time right now. I've got a couple of DC properties I might be doing in 2024, and still a lot of Star Wars work, and finishing Luke Cage, and at a certain point, but so many books that you can do, and continue to have a job that actually pays the bills. So it's a balancing, it's a high wire act, but it's a great position to be in. If you would have told a 9-year-old version of me that one day I'd have these problems, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take it.
I hear you, man. I'm so glad that people are listening and agreeing to some of the stuff. Oh my! And even all right, we say with that teaser is like, what, DC?
Yeah, two major DC characters that I've always wanted to play with. So if I can't say what they are, but for followers of interviews that I've done and people who've said that who've heard me say my dream characters, looks like some of my dreams may come true in 2024.
Outstanding to hear, man. I just talked to Christopher Priest about 2 weeks ago, and he certainly has his favorite characters of color that he wanted to pursue, but also I know he was really excited to be able to do both Deathstroke and really this current series he's got going, Superman Lost. And right. I think he's telling an amazing character. Are there white characters or non-black characters that you'd like to pursue?
Both of the DC characters I'm doing are non-black.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's great there, man. Hey, you're right. I mean, it's like with Greg Rucka, and Greg really has shown a strength for writing women. You know, and
if you look at the Star Wars work, with the exception of Lando, there haven't been a lot of characters of color. I mean, Luke Cage is Luke Cage, and Falcon is Falcon. But for the most part, James Bond that I did, Alice Cooper, Army of Darkness. I think a pretty diverse portfolio at this point in regards to the comics world.
No, 100%. But I was wondering regarding like DC and Marvel and stuff. Yeah. Do you have a Spider-Man story? Do you have a Wolverine story?
For sure. I think it's all. I find that as much as I love superheroes, I love the horror elements of those worlds and the darker elements as well. And I think that's what I probably, other than Star Wars, sort of veer to the most. I love explosions and fights and all of those things, but also like having something to say.
Sure. DC and Marvel are getting, precious is the wrong word, but they're careful with their frontline A-listers and how they'll let a writer bend their characters, because everybody wants to have something to say with their stories. Sometimes, again, you may not be able to be allowed to
Right.
do what you want. Have you, for the most part, with your Marvel stories and your Star Wars stories, are you telling the stories that you want to tell?
For sure. I mean, you have to write out a pitch document before you get assigned anyway. So with all of them, the DC stuff, Marvel, everything, anytime I'm a writer for hire, I have to write out a pitch. So I'm pretty much doing what I want to do.
Cool, cool. The Mandalorian. Right now, again, we're looking for issue 8 coming out soon.
Hmm.
Uh, are you in? Would you say you're in the midst of your run? Are you near the end of your run? How would you characterize?
I believe this is the last one for the Mandalorian season 2, and then we'll find out about season 3. But I've got three other series, Star Wars series, that'll probably drop in 24. So
Outstanding. Oh
yeah,
man, all right, good. That means there's more excuses for me to bug you, and
yeah, it's a lot more Star Wars. A lot of Star Wars coming.
that's here. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Now, Rodney, I got to ask you about boxing because
Yep,
it's our shared passion.
it is.
I think as 2023 closed, we got a nice gift with that Mondo card of 8 or 9 fights, of all with heavyweight division implications, if not title implications. Um, yeah, I mean, let's first of all, I'm curious of your opinion of Deontay Wilder. I have to
Yeah,
be
that
honest.
was where that was why my disposition changed a little bit. I was really disappointed. He didn't have to knock him out, but I thought that he could have put up a more spirited effort. Um, I wanted to see AJ and him get it on, and I was even planning to go over there. And
Wow.
now, I'm not Fury Usyk. That could be great or not. Who knows? But I wanted to see Wilder AJ for sure. But now we won't see that.
It does kind of disappoint me that Wilder has never learned good defense and better setups for that right hand. I
And
mean,
the footwork. I mean, the footwork, everything to put himself in position. It just seems like without being able to land that right hand, there's nothing.
yeah.
You see him training and you see him throwing a jab maybe for a half a round, and then he goes right back to windmill.
Yeah, I mean, taking nothing away from Joe Parker,
No,
who fought a fantastic fight and was in
he did.
shape, and he's been active. So, he did everything right to lead up to this. And of course, I know he and Fury are, if not sparring partners, certainly really good friends. And Fury told him the things he learned fighting Wilder. And I really think, there was that feeling that, well, Fury's an exception because he's another big man. He throws hard too. And now I really feel like Wilder's exposed. And it's like, I don't know, at 38, it's like, you got nothing. If you have nothing else, it is okay to walk away. And he certainly has an amazing record to be proud of. But I don't know what beyond more money.
Yeah,
I think there's a blueprint of how to beat him that's pretty clear now.
for sure. I mean, I think even if he fought Andy Ruiz or a guy like that, like you said, there's a blueprint for a guy who is skilled with his hands and his feet to be able to sort of keep that right hand, stay away from the right hand, keep moving around the ring, lateral movement, the basics of boxing.
I'm with you, man. How about Fury Nagano? What'd you make of that fight?
He looked like me. Fury looked like he was in my shape. He looked like he just showed up and figured, like most boxing guys versus the MMA guys, that I'll just sort of toy with this guy. And then Ngannou looked like he had some skill. He looked like he had some skill. And, I don't know if they got him in the top. I think WBC or WBA has him in the top 10 now. I don't know if he's that skilled. But, certainly for a guy that doesn't come in prepared, it's sort of like Apollo Creed and Rocky, where Creed takes him for granted and Rocky comes and, has a great showing. And I think that's sort of Ngannou. But I also think it's great for these types of mixed combat sports to come together beyond the whole Logan Paul thing, to be able to make it like an attraction. You don't automatically know that what the outcome's going to be.
Absolutely, man. No, I think a lot of people gave Conor McGregor more credit than he deserved when he fought Mayweather.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, you're like me, where we're students of the game, and we're like, all right, Floyd's toying with them.
Yeah, I
And,
mean, Floyd told me, that it was basically one of those things where you want to give the people their money's worth, and he's a fighter. And around the seventh, eighth round, he's going to tire out. He's you just keep moving. You just keep him moving, keep him moving. This is a guy who, grapples, and he's used to fighting a particular way. His body, his cardio, everything is sort of geared to a certain style of fighting. And I think unless you do it, you don't realize how much air and wind boxing takes, And if you got muscle on your body and all that running and moving and all of that, you're not, it's going to catch up with you.
well, and just like when a boxer steps in the MMA world and gets their asses handed to them,
Yeah. James Tony comes to
conversely,
mind. Yeah.
absolute Ray Mercer as well.
Yeah.
So no, we're speaking each other's language. I know you know this stuff. How about AJ? And man, I thought for sure Ottawa Lean and him were going to be an amazing matchup. And I give Joey Gamache credit for recognizing his guy he wasn't right that night. I think his head, as much as whatever condition he was in getting in the ring, it's like, man, you just don't have it tonight. And it bums me out because I thought for sure that was going to be the most intriguing matchup.
Yeah, it wasn't. I thought those two. I was so depressed after Wilder to see that fight after that. The earlier fights on the card were actually a lot more entertaining than those last two.
Yeah, I think so. I think the cruiserweight champion is ready to move on in the same way that Usyk was a couple of years ago. And I think he's going to be a threat. I got to be honest. I don't know how you felt about this. Big Baby Miller against Daniel Dubois. Thank you. God, I'm really glad you said that, Rodney, because no disrespect to Dubois, but I think he's an incredibly ordinary heavyweight.
And he was fighting me. Again, he's fighting another guy that didn't come in shape and, had some skills, but I've never known Big Baby Miller to be in shape or not be on steroids or not to do something that made you question his discipline. He has some natural skills, but you didn't see many of them. And Dubois sort of won by default. It was like, you knew a guy that size was going to get tired eventually. And once some of the mustard came off of those shots in the middle rounds, the guy that's in the best shape is going to win.
I'm with you, man. Did any of the other younger contenders stand out to you?
I don't remember names, because anytime I'm watching the zone, I'm watching for the main event, and this time the top two. So I happen to just be watching it to watch. I knew Big Baby Miller. I think Bivol fought on there too.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Bivol because the light heavyweight champ, because Better BF has his fight coming up in a week or so.
Yeah, I thought that was a good fight.
He's always great. Bivol is always
good. And, unfortunately, even beating Canelo doesn't make you a star necessarily or put your fight number 3.
Sure.
You're fighting number 3 on a card, on the zone. So it's not exactly like you're a household name now, but I respect the guy. I enjoyed that fight as well. But I would love to see him fight. I don't really want to see him fight Canelo again, but the Better BF thing sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what Better BF. I mean, because again, like Deontay Wilder, Better BF, not a young man, about the same age, I think.
Yeah,
38 or so, and has wear and tear in that kind of long career and everything. Matthew's happy we're talking about boxing. Well, that's good, Matthew. Ask a question because give us something to think about. Because again, it's so conflicting because it seems like the Saudis right now have the money
to
put these fights on.
Well, and you look at Showtime. You look at Showtime going away from boxing, and it's only top rank right now on ESPN. So, how much boxing are we going to get in the States of the big fights now?
Well, it seems like I'm hearing rumblings that PBC might be making a deal with Amazon.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that too.
So, but it's a shame, man, because God, when we were kids, Saturday afternoons and Sundays, you'd have NBC and CBS and ABC giving us fights, and then it was like, all right, HBO and Showtime. And
it was USA Network for a minute. and then you had Friday Night Fights on ESPN, and you always had some regular outlet to be able to watch boxing. And now you got Top Rank, which is cool, but it was great when it was Top Rank and Showtime, and it was even greater when you had ESPN, HBO, and Showtime. And now all of it is sort of, floating around like I don't know where to get what.
Yeah, you got to hunt for it,
Yeah.
and it's
And it's a
depressing.
subculture already. It's not like a mainstream football, basketball, baseball. So you sort of have to have the wherewithal to hunt for it.
And it's a shame because we're in a period where a lot of weight divisions have some seriously good
You do.
competitive talent.
You
You
got that
know,
Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez. You got all of those guys. Tank Davis. Hoping those guys all fight each other, and even some of the other names that are under, like Boots and the other ones. You got some really interesting guys, but for them to not have a place to fight. It's like even with Amazon. I love Amazon, love what Amazon does as a company,
sure.
but anytime I got to go to an app to watch something, maybe technology will make it like it's regular TV. That's the only thing that's the downer for me. Even the DAZN, I forget, and the email comes, or I'll see it on cable or whatever. I still, even if I have it on my app, I'll still buy it just because I don't want to watch it on my phone.
Well, I'm watching my pennies, Rodney, and I got to be honest. I was a little disappointed that DAZN would have pay-per-views when you're paying a
Yeah,
monthly
but
subscription.
UFC does that too, and ESPN Plus does the same thing too. They'll have some of the regular ones on ESPN Plus, but then if they get a big one, then you got to pay for it.
Absolutely. I'm lucky, being in Chicago, I got my bars that I can go to that
Yeah,
they'll buy the subscriptions and stuff. And it's like, I'll sit down and drink and eat pizza at some place and watch. It's funny, not my name. And this shows you where the non diehards are. He had no idea HBO and Showtime got rid of boxing. Absolutely,
yeah.
man.
HBO's been gone for a while.
Yeah, man. God, like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, that broke my heart as well. Matthew says he doesn't have much to say about the Saudi card. He was disappointed Wilder lost because he really enjoyed watching him. I got to be honest, man. I mean, I feel, and I don't think I'm Sherlock Holmes or anything like that. But years ago, I'm like, all right, that's it. The right hand, especially, and maybe you and I have talked about this, Rodney, when he's being trained by Mark Breland. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a great guy to learn from, the same way that Marciano needed a Charlie Goldman to go, all right, you got the power, but you got to learn how to set it up and you got to learn how to defend yourself. And they just refined some basic skills in Marciano to make him a better fighter. And with Deontay, I don't know if it was just lack of interest or muscle memory. I don't know what it was.
Well, it's funny. We're talking about a guy I think that has 2 losses, 3 losses on his record, overall. But even in his victories, for guys who are purists and love the game, you want to see skill as much as, that one weapon, the eraser. And
Absolutely.
he's had a lot of fights against Ortiz and some other guys where he was losing 4 or 5 rounds, and then all of a sudden he knocks him out. And you forget those 4 or 5 rounds that he was losing. And I think, that thing catches up to you. It's almost like guys who use physicality as their foundation. You think Roy Jones, I'm sure that there are others, and they lose just a little bit of that athleticism, and it's over. And the guys who have skill, like a Floyd Mayweather, can go into their late 30s and still be competitive, because they're not relying just on their physicality. They're in great shape, but they have so much skill that the skill sort of splits the difference between the youth and inexperience. I think about the fight with Floyd and Canelo, where Canelo's still Canelo and was Canelo back then, but his physicality couldn't match Floyd's skill.
100%, man. No. And I remember Roy too. And that's when I was covering him in sports radio. And Roy didn't protect himself enough. And he would count on
Yeah,
his,
his
his
speed.
moving his body.
Yeah,
Yes, his quickness, getting out of the way of stuff. And you're right, man. As soon as he slowed down, it's like, well, here comes Glenn Johnson. Here comes Antonio
After
Tarver.
the Ruiz fight, when he had to come back down to light heavy, And that first fight back, and he actually beat Tarver, but he didn't beat him in a very convincing way, which set up the rematch, and that's when Tarver knocked him out. Then Glenn Johnson knocked him out. Then virtually everybody seemingly was knocking him out.
Yep.
And you always hope that there was one more great Roy Jones performance because it was must-see TV. But time is undefeated.
Exactly, man. No, time beats everybody. I'm so glad Matthew brings up Inoue. And
Yeah,
man, Rodney, I don't know about you, but truly, for me, it is so fun to wake up on a Tuesday morning and have to watch that show in the.
DVR, man, DVR. If God bless DVR, because I watching the fight at 5:30 in the morning or whatever time, the thing. He's incredible, but I need him to come over here and fight some people that I recognize.
Well, I respect that, and truly, I don't know his weight divisions, the bantamweight and featherweight divisions that he's now fighting in, but he's beaten belt holders,
He
and,
is, but it's
and
like Mikocheski, if I'm saying his name correctly,
you are,
where
yes.
you get these guys overseas that are winning and are in quotes great that you never really get an opportunity to see because Carl Froch, I think, had a little bit of that. There was another guy that fought Tarver and Hopkins. I think he retired undefeated. I forget his name, but he was light heavy. But you see these guys and they're great and they go into the Hall of Fame, but they seem to only fight where they fight, and they probably feel the same way about American fighters too.
Sure.
So it's but yeah.
Well, and again, I imagine I know that I think Aram might have some interest in Inoue. But regardless, I mean, yeah, the promoters in Japan are paying him top dollar.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
wouldn't go home. Hey, if it were me and I was in his position, I'd stay over there too.
sure, absolutely. You know, I worry, Rodney, about the fact that the American networks are pulling out, and we'll see what happens with Amazon and PBC. That yeah, the sport is getting away from the Americans, and I'm very appreciative that the rest of the world still loves boxing, especially the way England and Germany and
Mexico.
Japan, they all love it so much and stuff, and it's still a major sport in those countries. And thankfully, with streaming, just like cable, we're able to still enjoy the sport and everything. But yeah, I wonder about the American interest.
I want to see it the way I saw it. I want it to be like what you were saying. Those days where, I watched Ali and Frazier and Ali and Foreman on ABC. It was like the good old days. And I'm not necessarily saying it's got to go back to that, but there was a period where when PBC first started and they were on all the major networks, they were trying to get like Fox and, just different places. And we were inundated with boxing. And I knew it wouldn't last forever because boxing's boxing. But it was a great time.
No, I agree with you. Now my name is wondering what happened with the lack of American interest. I think honestly, it's also that unfortunately it's the monkey business of boxing.
Yeah,
Where,
you don't get the best guys. It's not like the UFC where if they've got in boxing, if you've got a Conor McGregor, you let him win as many fights as you can before you feed him to the guy. And in boxing, all of these other guys that are great. If this was the UFC, Gervonta Davis would have already fought Devin Haney, would have already fought Shakur Stevenson, and all of those guys would be like the four kings. They all would have fought each other by now. And instead, they fight a guy who I may or may not know. And then the other guy will come in the ring and it'll be like, WWE. And they'll talk about fighting each other, but it may not happen. And they only fight twice a year. Marvin Hagler, I think, fought 4 times one year when he was champ, when he was marvelous Marvin Hagler. And now you've got guys who really just seem to fight when they must, when they have to. So you think about any TV show or anything that you follow, if the NFL was only 4 games, the season was only 4 games long, would it be the journey? You follow something to follow it. But if you don't get that thing where you create a relationship with the fighter, it's hard to have that type of attachment.
and from a promoter's standpoint, they do everything they can, like you were saying, to avoid an evenly matched opponent.
Yeah,
That's
you could
why
lose that guy. you could if you see if a guy gets exposed before you've made some money off of him, before you got the Crawford Spence fight,
Yep.
you think how many fights that Spence fought up until this point with guys who didn't have the style of Terrence Crawford. I'm not saying Spence isn't great because he is. He's still one of my
Sure
favorite
is.
fighters, but
Sure is.
maybe a different style would have been complicated for him, before he got to Crawford. But it really is now. You'll hear fighters say, he's not big enough yet. It's not a big enough fight yet. It's not a big enough. And it used to be a time where guys just fought each other, the Hector Camacho, Ray Mancini days, where guys just fought because that's what you did. Aaron Pryor and, just a bunch
Arguello.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
Arguello, and they just fought to fight.
You're right, man. YouTube is filled with those a lot of those great fights, and you go beyond the Four Kings era and stuff, or those four guys. But
Yeah,
you had great light heavyweight champions alongside Michael Spinks,
big
Eddie
time.
Mustafa Muhammad, Matt
Yeah,
Saad
yeah.
Muhammad,
Marlon
Mike Elliott,
Starling,
Marlon Starling in the
yeah,
welterweights,
all of
absolutely.
those guys, and they were they weren't household names, but it was like a regular. To see them from an athletic place, you could be a fan of them, and they wouldn't be as big as the Haglers and Hearns and those guys. But a Greg Haugen or the Vinny Pazienza or any of those guys were still guys that you recognize.
And they sustained us while we were waiting
Big
for
time.
the
Yeah.
A-listers to
Yeah.
come
It
out.
might fight them. There's a guy whose name I'm missing. And I feel bad because I can't remember his name, but he fought Duran. He fought Hearns. He actually beat Hearns later in his career.
Iran Barkley.
Iran Barkley, yeah, it's like those kind of guys that were great, and part of it, Arguello and Pryor and in those types of fights, that wasn't a Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler fight, but it was
Right.
still a big fight for guys like us that dig within the sport. It was a big deal, and now that guy, if he can't get 10 million to fight the other guy for 8 million and 60% of the gross and the gate and pay-per-view and blah blah blah, he's not fighting that guy.
You're
He'll
right.
fight some number 12 fringe contender, um, and make 4 million and keep making that 4 million until he has to fight that guy.
No, you're so right, man. Also, all the little guys that used to fight at the Olympic Auditorium in L.A. Did you ever go to the Olympic, Rodney? I never did.
I did not. That was before my time in
Me
LA.
too.
But yeah,
No, I'm with you. There's a great documentary about the Olympic that's been making the festival rounds,
Yeah.
and I had the filmmaker on Word Balloon to talk to him about the movie and stuff. And yeah, it's really really good. No, oh, here we go, Matthew. Any thoughts on Virgil Ortiz coming back this weekend before his health problems? Ortiz seemed to be on his way to being something special. Well, yeah, I think you answered the question, Matthew. I think we got to see what he's got left after this long layoff and his health issues. And
Yeah.
I don't begrudge him taking a slightly less tough opponent coming back.
Coming back after like illness, injury, that type of thing, sure. But 3 fights from now, if he's still fighting the same guy, then I got a problem.
I'm with you, man. No, I'm absolutely with you. Very true. Did you feel like the big question was who was the fighter of the year? Crawford because of the Spence fight, or Inoue because of his activity and moving up in weight and keep winning titles and stuff? I thought Inoue was the one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyway, from the place of an athletic standpoint, I think Crawford from the spectacle.
Sure.
It's not his fault that Spence was drained or that, Spence wasn't the Spence we thought he was going to be. That was an event for today's world, and it just didn't live up to it. But he did take him apart.
I'm with you. No, absolutely. And again, I think there are still enough questions where, as I've heard writers and experts say regarding the heavyweight division, if the Wilder Fury fights were the pinnacle, we might be on the downside. But still, I think a lot of intriguing matchups are there. You mentioned Andy Ruiz. I think he's still vital. I think
there's Andy Ruiz. There's the other guy that fights, I think, for Top Rank. I forget his name. There's another guy, heavyweight, that's pretty good. I think he's a big baby too. But
oh yeah, that's Anderson.
Yeah. And actually saw him on the undercard of the Wilder fight where he knocked out Hellenius.
Yes,
Um, yeah, but there's some guys. There's no to the argument that we're making. There's no structure to it to where you actually follow them. ESPN is doing a good job. Um, yeah, ESPN is doing a good job, but I still have to go. Oh yeah, that guy.
I understand. That's
You
fair.
know.
Well, and again, the attention has been on Fury, Wilder, Joshua, Ruiz because of the Joshua upsets, Usyk because of the Joshua wins.
Yeah.
So the attention is there, and I mean these guys. I'm glad that they're finally fighting each other, and that there are promoters that are paying them enough that they are willing to take the risk and risk that undefeated record.
Yep.
We'll see. But yeah, they gotta prove themselves before they get a real title shot.
Big time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. This has been great, Rodney. Honestly, as always, I really appreciate you talking about this stuff.
Likewise.
And as always, man, we're excited for the end of the month.
Yep.
What's going to be Philadelphia 33? You see, Savage Dragon is going to enter the picture, and we'll see what other surprises Rodney and Jason Scott Alexander have us regarding that. And your run on The Mandalorian as you wrap up season 3 here. We'll see what happens. Luke Cage, holy cow, man, fantastic! Always glad to see somebody who gets Luke Cage writing him and stuff. And gang work getting started and stuff is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, from Dynamite, Alice Cooper. This is you got a great hand there now, Rodney. If we were in Vegas at one of the tables, I think you have a winning hand here. And of course, Run Fool.
Yes. Run, fool. Yes.
I'll do it as close as I can, Rodney, without cultural appropriation.
Okay.
I don't want to get in trouble, man.
It's okay. In this instance, it's okay. I give you a pass.
There you go. You're a good man for doing it. And honestly, man, I'm going to be looking very hard to see what announcements for DC are coming up for you. That's terrific. I'm really glad. Again, it's great that these you're doing your own thing with Philadelphia and a lot of your other stuff. But it is great that the license holders are recognizing what you can bring to the table and giving you the forum to do it. I think that's terrific.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming back and talking.
Anytime.
In a few months, I'll be bugging you again, and we'll do a catch up on everything.
We'll be back talking about boxing again.
That would be great, man. Rodney Barnes. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking to Franco of Art and Franco. They've got Teen Titans Go to the library, and that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. It's a very clever graphic novel that came out this week. I hope you'll join us. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.